This is AFL Sunday on ABC Sport. Matt Clinch and Cameron Ling with you. Well, Melbourne with a big watch this weekend after the bye, and Demons fans had to endure a bit of a tough final term as North Melbourne fought their way back. The Kangas kicked the last 6 goals of the match as Melbourne were held scoreless, but they did manage to hold on to claim a crucial win thanks to some great defensive acts. The Melbourne captain is Max Gawn, and he's been good enough to join us on ABC Sport. Max, welcome. Thanks so much for your time. A bit of feeling of relief, no doubt, this morning.
Yes, good morning. No, it's always good after a win, no matter how it happens. The AFL is an incredibly hard competition currently, and if you're slightly off your game, you get beaten. And we were slightly off in the last quarter, and we almost got beaten. So you look at the results over this weekend. I mean, who was tipping Brisbane to win by 90 over in Port in that, what you were just saying, the premiership reunion? Who's tipping Carlton to win by 50 against Geelong. So it's it's an incredibly tough comp.
Max, really appreciate your time this morning after such a hard game last night. Can I take you inside that last quarter and the feeling of North Melbourne coming as they're kicking those goals and you couldn't quite get that goal back yourselves? What's happening out on the field? You're 1 or 2 leaders down with Christian and that missing from the team. A lot falls onto you and Jack Viney. What are you trying to fix up there just to slow that opposition momentum?
We've done a little bit of work as leaders just over the last couple of games when we've been challenged. Just a bit of our posture and body language and getting together after centre bounces. So that was our main focus, to make sure as a group of 4 midfielders that were ready for any challenge that came at us. And so if you went back over that vision, I'd hope you'd see some guys that were really trying to sort of fix what was going on and trying to lead from the front. The unfortunate thing is with momentum in AFL, it's just incredibly tough to stop sometimes. So we tried our best. The last 4 minutes, they got within a kick with 4 minutes to go, and we were able to hold up in that last 4 minutes. We just couldn't really stop the onslaught at the start. So that'll be something we go back and try and have a look at. But like you said, we got saved by a couple of good defensive actions. One from the debutant, who I think that was his only kick as well. So he got a hold in the ball, a free kick, and an effective kick. And it's the most Supercoach points for anyone that's ever just had one touch.
Well, what a time to do it. It was sensational. Where were they getting you? Were you able to put a finger on it? How were they getting that run going?
I mean, teams, especially when you have momentum, you can throw sort of anything at them. And then because you're 40 points down at three-quarter time, you sort of open it up a tiny bit more, and it's maybe something we just weren't expecting, and we were probably still trying to score too much, which is a fine mindset to have, but it's dangerous if you're coming against a side that are going to bite the bullet and go through the middle, and Zach Fisher was sort of dicing us up a little bit from half-back. So that's probably one, and then stoppage. They brought a couple of numbers up to stoppage late, and we probably just didn't react quick enough to a few extra numbers in and around stoppage.
Max Gawn is with us on ABC Sport. You mentioned some of the great defensive efforts. Jack McVee, Kynan Brown on debut, but Jack Viney really led from the coalface with 25 disposals, 12 clearances and 6 tackles. What was sort of the conversations between you and him as he tried to impose himself on the match?
I put him in a little, they're a group, him and Clayton Oliver and Tom Sparrow. They played sort of the inside mid-roll on the weekend, and I don't think it got put on them, but certainly since Track's injury, Clayton and Jack have gone, all right, it's time for us to sort of lift this midfield, and this was their first chance, and Clayton unfortunately got tagged. I thought he handled that well post the first sort of 10 to 15 minutes, but it allowed, so Clayton ended up trying to go to Davies-Uniacke as much as he could, and it allowed Jack to be a bit freer in a way, so Clayton would try and make it a 2v1. And then Jack can go out and play his game. And I know Jack, personally, I've seen him doing some amazing team things and selfless stuff in the last few weeks. To be able to get his lick of the ice cream this week, and like you said, I think it was 12 clearances, 25 touches. He played a really good game of football.
So no Christian Petrarca for the first time in 6 years for Melbourne. So that was sort of how you approached it, by putting it on more of the senior midfielders. And we saw Trent Rivers head into the midfield as well to try and help fill the void.
Yeah, 150 games in a row. It's been a long time since we haven't had Track. I can't actually think of playing without him. He's been there for that long. Colton the young kid has very similar attributes, albeit in his second game. So he certainly wasn't going to have the pressure of trying to fill Track's role. It was going to be more to the senior guys in there. Yeah, we brought Trent Rivers in, which allowed Clayton and Jack to be a bit more aggressive and attacking, because those two have probably been playing Trent's role while Track's been in the team. But now no Track, it allows Clayton and Jack to sort of be a bit more aggressive, and Trent can hold us up from a defensive point of view in that midfield trio.
And you mentioned Clayton Oliver being tagged by Will Phillips, who did the job on Nick Dacos last week. Clayton's form, how are you kind of assessing it? Is this sort of missing a fair bit of the pre-season, catching up with him, and he's having to work his way through it?
I mean, I'm very lucky because I sort of spend a lot of time with Clayton, and also I get to see what happens inside the four walls, and he's an incredibly hard worker. Well, he did miss the pre-season, but I think what he's doing in terms of being that defensive midfielder in the last 12 weeks to allow Cozzy and Track to do what they want to do, that's obviously, people don't really see that. They just see his numbers. His numbers have gone down from, 30 to 20 disposals, but he's playing a completely different role. Last night was his first chance to go back to a role that we're probably more comfortable to see Clayton at, and he got tagged. So I'm expecting a really, really big, strong 9 weeks for him. He's doing everything he can to try and get himself back into that Clayton Oliver form that we know we can see, and hopefully we see it in these next few weeks.
Max, I'm intrigued about the preparation and I suppose more mental preparation coming into this week's game. A shorter turnaround for you guys than what your opposition's going to be, Brisbane at the Gabba. When you're coming up against a team who, obviously grand finalists last year, struggled a little bit early on the year, but it appears as though they're back and they're flying, and what they did to Port Adelaide was very, very impressive. As you take a slightly younger group up to Brisbane, is there anything you need to do to convince them that, hey, no, we can not only take it up to this lot, we can beat them? Is there something from the mental preparation when the team is red hot that you're playing that you as captain need to do to convince them, or you just look around and think, no, they understand it, they get it? What's that like?
It's been set up by Goody already, to be honest, Lingy. He spoke about it after the game. And I left last night really, really pumped and ready to go to almost play Brisbane today. So I've got to sort of work out that I've got to chill for 5 days then do it. But they're a team that's got us the last couple of times we've played them, in particular at the G. And yeah, I mean they're in hot form. They've played some seriously good footy, and I dare say they'd be the favourites for this game. So to be able to take a young team up there, like I did when we still got no Track, we got no Track for a while. I'm really pumped for it. It's a little rival. I'm not sure if many people see Melbourne-Brisbane as a rivalry, but the playing groups certainly do, and it's going to be fun. We're back on the big stage. It's Friday night footy. He just set it up so well, Goody, that I think we're going to see a strong effort from our club up there.
Do you have a little personal rivalry too? Do you see other? Clearly some of the other best opposition ruckmen in the comp, which Oscar McInerney is, and just think, I want to take that person down. That's, just get rid of him and it's going to go a long way to us winning. Is that? Do you narrow it down that much to, yep, I'm going to destroy this bloke?
Well, I mean, to be fair, there's probably 18 of them at the moment. There is some pretty good rucks. In particular, last night, that was my first real go at Tristan last night, and he is strong. Probably the strongest I've come up against. So, Oscar, I've had some great battles with Oscar over the last sort of 5-6 years. One of the issues that I can get in is I can get a little bit too personal, and I can make it just all about me and the other ruckman. And I know no fan wants that, because the ruck battle's probably not the one they're tuning into. But I'm really excited. He plays the Gabba extremely well. It's a unique ground. It's got the centre wicket, so it's unique in centre bounce, and it's a strong centre bounce game. So teams that win centre bounce tend to win the game. And Oscar goes a long way to helping them do that. So I am excited, but no more excited than what I am against all 18 rucks. I like a story behind most rucks that are going around at the moment.
Melbourne captain Max Gawn is with you on ABC Sport. We could spend 55 minutes on the art of rucking, but we could drag down a little rabbit hole there. Max, a couple of quick ones. So 47 inside 50s last night. Daniel Turner was your only multiple goals kicker. Is still a fair bit of work to be done with your forward 50 and putting that on the scoreboard?
We'll be working on that for the next while I'm sitting in the MCC having a couple of cans. We'll be working on that for 20 years, and every team will be working on their inside 50 connection as well. We've got 3 young guys there. Petty probably a little bit older than the other 2, but they're trying to work on their chemistry. And they've got Bailey Fritsch there as well. I'm not concerned. Just as long as we're kicking goals and winning games, I'm not too concerned. JVR kicked 3 last week on Darcy, or 4, I can't remember. And then it seemed like it was Disco's turn, although Harry Petty was able to take marks slightly higher up the ground as well. So I'm not too concerned. I feel like that's in a good place, and it's only going to get better over the next 9 weeks.
And I know it's been a week on since the Christian Petrarca incident. You've spoken about it, but were you shocked when you found out sort of the severity of the damage that had suffered to him and the fact that he was able to stay out there for the period he was?
Yeah. I mean, for him to get back out on the ground after what we know what was happening is pretty courageous. Although he probably didn't know what was actually wrong with him, he probably just thought it was a cracked rib. And then when people say, it's probably just a cracked rib, I think that's still a pretty big injury as well.
Yeah.
But it ended up being a whole lot more. And we still haven't seen him. He's still hiding in isolation. So hopefully over the next few days, I think we can go give him a cuddle and he can get back in and around the group and get us nice and energised to be able to take on the back half of the year, which I know he's really excited for, even though he may or may not. I'm not sure where it leads if we get deep into the final part of the year, but he may not be involved this year. But I know he's really energetic to make sure we have a good finish to the season.
Was there any broader conversation about whether coming back on the field is too great a risk sometimes if you are in Christian's position, or is that just what sort of sometimes takes place, that you don't know the severity of the damage?
Until they get an MRI scan of the MCG, you're never really sure what's going on. He had 2 doctors, he had paramedics, he had an AFL doctor down there, he had everyone sort of telling him what was wrong, and no one got the actual diagnosis correct until I think some time in the morning the next day. So I think people have played with a cracked rib before. Famously back in the 80s, I think they all had cracked ribs when they were playing AFL. So that might have been going on in his head. He felt like he did a little fitness test down there and felt like he was maybe going to be able to hold up, but I don't have too much of an issue with how it's happened. I think this is a 1 in a million case that we've sort of we're reacting to.
And you mentioned at the start of the conversation just about how even the AFL competition is at the moment, with the probably exception of Sydney out in front. Melbourne having been knocked out in straight sets the last 2 years, where do you sort of feel like this group is at the moment in terms of trying to play your best footy in the back half of the season, but still a few areas you have to try and improve on, keeping in mind, you lost Angus Brayshaw before the season started, so there's always challenges that come along.
Yeah, we'd love to be Sydney. Sydney are sitting quite nice, almost probably qualified already, I dare say, for finals, and they can keep working on their game, knowing they're sitting a couple of games clear at the top. But we've been there as well. In 22, we were sitting a couple of games clear at the bye. I think we were 11-0. And we ended up going out in straight sets. You've got to make sure you keep improving. The team that's hit the best form late, if you look at Carlton and Giants last year, both made prelims, hitting form at the right time. Unfortunately, didn't make the granny. Giants got within a kick, but they didn't make the granny. And Carlton actually started that prelim hot, I think. They kicked the first 5 goals. So it's all about being in form at that right part of the year, which we're excited to try and get to. We're not there yet. But hopefully with a couple of little tweaks and we just keep smacking in on the contest and our defence side of our brand, we can hopefully get there by the back half of the year.
Now, I normally ask you about the cycling as we let you go, but it was the 20th edition of the Pink Lady match and the relationship between Melbourne and the BCNA. You wore some special boots which had your auntie's name on them as well as Anita Frawley. And for fans, there's a chance to try and get their hands on them. Yeah,
I'm not exactly sure the link right now. You'll be able to have a look on the Melbourne FC page to try and get your hands on them. But I'm not normally a pink boot wearer, so I finally I got a chance to be able to wear them for a great cause. I've been involved in a few BCNA games now, but to have a connection now, you actually see the work that BCNA does. Albeit my auntie's in New Zealand and is not involved with BCNA Australia, but is in BCNA New Zealand. But also Anita Frawley, who is a close connection to the club with Angus marrying her daughter. So those boots, they've got their names on them, they've got the BCNA on them, and they've got a couple of kicks on them, so they're a bit dirty as well. I'm lucky I got a kick.
Beautifully done. Max, as always, we appreciate your time. Good luck against the Brisbane Lions next week, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thanks, guys.
Melbourne captain Max Gawn joining you on AFL Sunday on ABC Sport.